As they're leaving the temple, one of Jesus' disciples comments on how big the stones are that make up the temple and how magnificent the building itself is. But Jesus says it's not always going to be like this. There's a time coming when this temple will be destroyed. Not one stone will be left on top of another. And when they're on their own, his disciples ask him a little bit more about this. What's going to be the sign of this happening, and when is it going to happen? And so begins one of the most challenging chapters in Mark's gospel account. So Jesus tells them in the lead up to all of this, there are going to be false messiahs. Wars, natural disasters are going to happen. There's going to be increased hostility and persecution to those that are faithful to Jesus. But the gospel itself is going to spread beyond the reach of just the Jewish people. And then there's going to be something that is called the abomination that causes desolation. Now, this is something Daniel referred to, and that happened a couple of hundred years before Jesus was on this earth. At that time, a pagan king entered the holy parts of the temple of God with an idol to Zeus and sacrificed a pig on the altar. This was the abomination that caused desolation that Daniel referred to. But by Jesus using this term now, he's saying something of a similar kind is going to happen after the time when Jesus returns to heaven. And then at some point in the future, after all of that has happened, Jesus is going to return to this earth, and heaven and earth as it is known today is going to pass away. Now, the way I understand it, everything in this chapter has been fulfilled already, with the exception of the return of Jesus, for which we are still waiting. And one defining moment in this is the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple in 70 AD. The abomination that causes desolation would have been fulfilled by the Roman army entering into the temple, entering into the most holy places, and no doubt carrying with them their army standards that probably had upon them the images of their emperor who they worshipped as a god, thereby desecrating the temple. One of the big points Jesus is making here is that worship at the temple is now obsolete. It's a similar point he was making back in chapter 11 with the fig tree. We're no longer to go to the temple in Jerusalem in order to worship, but worship is found by being amongst the people who follow Christ and who love him and worship him. Another big point Jesus is making is that though the destruction of the temple could be predicted, which it was, the return of Jesus himself to this earth at some point in the future cannot be predicted. We cannot know the time of his return. And so we're to be ready for his imminent return right now, primarily by being one of his people. And if you've not yet turned to him and trusted in him, then now is the time to do that. But then also by being faithful to him, even amidst persecution and hostility, and by keeping on spreading the gospel all the way across the world.